Hello YouTube, it's BirdoPrey5 and I'm here for my first reaction to the new Twilight Zone 2019 Season 1, Episode 4, A Traveler. And to put this into two words, this episode is not good. It is the fourth episode in a row where the bad guy is a seemingly straight white male who's counting, and the good guys, if there are any, are anything but. So, with that, let's start my reaction. The episode begins with the Northern Lights. Before long, you can see they are actually in Alaska. There is an Alaska trooper driving. She appears to be an Inuit woman. You can see the signpost up ahead. It says has Alaskan names, North Pole and things like that. She's driving. She can see the Northern Lights in her rear window. They're either an extremely bright Northern Lights or they just don't know what the Northern Lights actually look like in person. Either way, she's driving. She's got a bigger, less friendly seeming Inuit man in the back, and over the course of the conversation you find out that it's actually her brother. She arrested her brother for being drunk, even though she later says he actually wasn't doing anything. He wasn't disorderly, he wasn't anything, he was just drunk. So now I do know some Alaskan towns do have dry laws. You're not allowed to have alcohol. You're not allowed to drink alcohol. I mean, they can't just arrest you for being drunk. She says she says later he wasn't a nuisance. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Apparently she's arresting him for the sole reason that the captain of her police station, or trooper station, whatever it is, it's also Christmas Eve. So it starts off with them playing Christmas music on the radio. And the guy in the back is like, what the hell, Christmas music? I hate this Christmas music, shut it off. Isn't this supposed to be on a police station? And she's like, it is a police station. On Christmas Eve, the guy, the head guy, plays Christmas music. And within, 2 minutes of the start of this episode, the guy in the back yells out a big F Santa Claus. But of course, he doesn't say F, he says the full word. Yes, 2 minutes into the Twilight Zone 2019, and we get an F Santa Claus. As well as a longer discussion on how evil Christianity has been. So they get to the police station. She's bringing in her brother, done absolutely nothing wrong. She's only bringing him in to look good for the police chief, because the police chief likes to pardon someone on Christmas Eve, and they've got no one in the jail to pardon. So she's like, I know, I'll arrest my drunk brother on trumped up charges just so that my boss has someone he can pardon and feel good. Yeah, I mean, obviously this was poorly planned. And I gotta say, for the first time, this show was just poorly edited. I mean, in the first 2 minutes, she once says that it's going to take 2 hours or so for him to get through the pardon, and then 30 to 45 seconds later in the dialogue, maybe a minute, she says, oh, you'll be back on your bar stool within an hour. So if there's a bar stool, obviously drinking is allowed in this town, so let's nix that possibility. So I really don't know why he was arrested. He probably has a case. He probably has a case for false arrest. That said, she brings him. Of course, it is a genuine Christmas party at the police station. The the guy, the head chief, he seems perfectly pleasant. Yes, he seems a bit more Christian than most, than I say mainstream. He is making it a point that he's celebrating Jesus's birthday and not just, the spirit of Christmas. So he's a bit more religious than I would say your average person celebrating Christmas. And so she brings, and they all recognize him as her brother. And she brings him in the back. And it's a long, for an Alaskan outpost police station that, doesn't have many people on hand. It is a long, long walk down dark, dark hallways to the holding cells in the back. And they have multiple holding cells. Again, an actual small police station in Alaska would not have these many cells. It wouldn't be this big. It wouldn't be this crowded. Even all the people working, there just wouldn't be that many. So she puts him in the back, leaves him completely alone, goes back out front to join the party. So it gets to the point. Also, throughout the night, there are these. I'm sorry. When she and her brother get to the police station, above the police station is a very bright light in the sky. And being they were just talking about Christianity, and in fact, the brother makes it a point to say, I don't believe that there's 3 wise guys, he calls them, goes and follows the light to meet a king. And why is that any more spiritual than our beliefs that our ancestors are looking down from us from the northern lights? And which is true, I will grant you that. There's no more reason to believe one over the other. But they were just talking about that. So now you see this bright light over the station when they get there. And the first thing, if you have more than 2 brain cells, you're thinking, the light, the Bethlehem light. But it's over the police station. And what do? They look at it and then they basically ignore it. I guess they keep talking about this Air Force base nearby, so maybe they chalk it up as an Air Force thing, and they go in. So she drops the brother off in the back. She comes back out to the front to the party. The top guy gives his little speech. He says, okay, let's pardon someone. Sends the same female officer in the back to get her brother. Her brother is fast asleep at this point because he was drunk. The brother also said on the way over he wanted food. He was hungry, he wanted food, and he wanted pie. So, but now he's asleep. And she sees there's another guy in the cell. And she gets freaked out because she knows the guy wasn't there before. She pulls her gun at a guy behind the cell, locked in a cell, and she starts interrogating this guy. How'd you get here? What's going on? And this is a well-dressed. I couldn't tell if he was Asian or Inuit. Intuit is the tax company. Inuit or Asian. Honestly, I just couldn't tell. But he's not really given answers. And the top cop is wondering why she's taking so long. And there's the picture of the guy just passed. So the top cop comes in and says, what's going on? And she's telling him there's somebody in here. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he doesn't believe. He's like, okay, is this a joke? Who put you up to it? And then the guy starts talking, and he starts saying he's an extreme adventure tourist, and a line of BS that nobody in their right mind, nobody would buy. That basically he's an extreme tourist, and that everybody he's got a YouTube channel. He's a YouTuber. He's a YouTuber with a big following. and that all the top adventurers have heard of this town, Qapla, Alaska, or something, whatever the hell it's called, and that they all know this sheriff. I think they said sheriff. That this sheriff and his Christmas pardons, and that his whole thing of coming was so he could blog about it on YouTube, about how he got pardoned by the sheriff, and then soon, like, the sheriff would be famous, because, I mean, he's already famous because all these people apparently know about him, but once this guy does a YouTube video of him, he'll be even more famous. And so since the brother is asleep anyway, the sheriff decides, okay, let's pardon this guy. Now, the woman, the sister, she realizes, hey, something is up. And she's like, I don't trust this guy. And the sheriff is like, well, why don't you can run his info, but I'm going to pardon him. She's like, well, what if it comes back that there's a hit? He's like, well, then we'll arrest him again. I mean, there was really no place he was going to go, which, fine. So she does. Oh, they also get his ID. He shows his ID, and it's literally it's a name that begins with A. Arahu, or I don't know what. Something Traveler. So he's like, I had my name legally changed in California to A. Traveler. A Traveler. Get it? Because his whole thing is being a traveler. Whatever. She runs his name. She calls the Air Force Base. She calls the FBI, but she can't get to anyone because it's Christmas Eve. Nobody has any records of this guy or any records of him committing any prior acts, so he comes back clean. She still doesn't believe him. When he's out at the party, the sheriff introduces him. Also, he had pulled out this cell phone when he was in the back, when he was in the prison, and it was a transparent phone. Okay, I mean, it looks like it's 50 years, 100 years plus tech from the future at least. And the guy's like, hey, where'd you get this phone? I've never seen a phone this advanced. He's like, I got it in Russia. And the sheriff's like, that's bullshit. Russia don't have good stuff. They only make crap. And the guy's like, no, this is newest stuff, 8K video. And they basically just ignore the fact that he has a phone that looks like it's 10 generations beyond anything we have today. So he comes out front. The sheriff introduces him as this adventure blogger, and they're all taking selfies with him, and they're videoing, and the guy starts singing karaoke, and when the time is right, the traveler starts talking to some of the individual people in the sheriff's station. The mayor is there. I guess the whole little town is at the sheriff's station. And he starts saying things. He's like, I know things about you guys. What? And he's like, yeah. And then he starts saying things. Yeah, here, this scene. That starts making people pretty uncomfortable. Like, he knows that so-and-so gave his brother the business for a contract, even though somebody else was the lowest bidder. And he knows somebody else was doing, I think they were having an affair or something. Really personal things that starts the whole town kind of being at each other's throats, to the point that the sheriff tells everybody to leave. And at this point, they know something is wrong, and they take him back to his cell. At this point, the brother is awake, and he's like, well, why didn't I get pardoned? I should be out of here, and where's my food? Where's my pie? Meanwhile, they're all trying to figure out what's up with this guy. He tells the sheriff, now again, like I said, all night there's been power outages. Apparently the Air Force Base taps into the power grid from the town, and they suck up all the juice on occasion, and it really annoys the people of the town when all the power goes out because the Air Force Base needs it. And that becomes important later for bad writing. So the guy, the traveler, tells the sheriff that he knows that the only thing important in this entire town, is an unmarked shed that the Air Force Base uses to connect to the town's power grid. Okay, and if that shed was ever destroyed, the Air Force Base, I guess, would be completely powerless because, I don't know, they wouldn't have their own backup generators. Such a critical installation. And when we do see this shed, it is literally the size of a shed. The Air Force Base could have 100 of these sheds on its own property if it's so needed. They could certainly make however much power this little town has got being generated on their own ground. So it's a stupid concept to begin with. He tells the sheriff that, yeah, I know about you. You told the Russians all about this thing. And he's like, and he claims to work for the FBI, he claims to work for the NSA, and some whatever other government agencies. Of course, he says he's undercover, he doesn't have ID. They finally, the top cop believes him, because obviously he really did do something, perhaps with the Russians. So the top sheriff leaves to try to go head off, to tip off maybe the Russians that the NSA or whoever is watching. And so the Inuit woman, police officer, trooper, is left alone with the guy, and that's what he really wanted, apparently. He told her earlier at the party that, listen, he's got a Christmas present for her. He can make her sheriff. And she didn't seem to care. Okay, fine. Apparently, okay. So, before the guy leaves, there was actually two. They put him in the cell, then they came back for him. When they came back for him the second time, the sheriff could have sworn he saw antenna sticking out of the guy's head. He was turned to the side, he had his hat off, and for like 2 frames, if you looked closely, you could see he was looking the other way, but you could see antenna that slightly looked like he might have been Andorian, but without the blue skin. And then, of course, a second later, he had his hat on, and you couldn't see anything wrong with him. And again, they pulled their gun on him while he's within a cell and make him take off his hat. So he takes off his hat, even though his hat has been off multiple times throughout the episode while he was singing karaoke. So they take off his hat like you think you're going to see something, but you know you're not. And of course, there's nothing there. And he says, please, that must have been a trick of the shadows and the light. And then he goes in this whole spiel about he knows about the top cop selling secrets to the Russians. So he leaves, and he leaves the Inuit woman officer with the guy. They have a conversation, and the guy who's in this thing, he uses, I don't know what. Excuse me. This isn't that important, but when she first puts her brother in the jail cell, she leaves the key perhaps 2 feet away on the wall, on the same wall of the just right outside the jail cell of the brother. He literally puts his arm through the bars, and he is not a small guy. He is a big dude. He literally gets his arm out through the bar and is within maybe 2 inches of actually reaching the entire set of keys for the entire jail. Okay, so that is beyond stupid. They could not in any way ever make me believe that's where anyone would keep the keys. If they had a guy actually thin in that cell, he could easily reach the keys. Okay, and even the brother, if he wasn't drunk and asleep, he could have fashioned something out of something, even his own clothes, and reached the keys somehow. So, I mean, beyond stupid. But anyway, so this guy's in the cell with the hat, and he can make the door open. Like, oh my God, the door just opened. Cut to commercial. Of course, there's no commercial, so we just get a black screen. And then we're back, and all of a sudden the door is locked again. The jail cell is locked again. And then they start talking again, and then 2 seconds later, the cell door is open again. Another terrible editing job on this episode. Which, of all the problems I've had previously with previous Twilight Zone episodes, editing was not one of them. In this one, yeah, it fell. It was pretty bad. Even the editing was bad. So the guy starts talking, and long story short, he's an alien, okay? He is an alien. He's come, and he says that we didn't know where the power station was in the town. It was the only missing piece. So by telling the sheriff that the Russians were coming, his people were going to follow the sheriff right to the shed, and I guess they would destroy the shed, and that military base, that one military base in Alaska, must have been preventing the alien invasion over Earth, and the only thing stopping the aliens was this one shed in this one Alaska town. And the only way they could think, the only way these aliens could think to find the shed, the only way these aliens who knew all these mundane details about all these other people, the only way they could figure out where the hell the shed is to pretend to tell the cop the Russians are coming, follow him to the shed so that they knew where the shed was. Presumably they can destroy the shed and take over the world. That was the entire point of this episode. Of course, the guy in the hat who made the jail cell open says that it's too late. He tells the woman it's too late. You can't stop it. She says maybe not. She runs out of there, leaving him with her brother in the cell open. Runs out to try to find the sheriff, even though the sheriff has got to have a 10+ minute lead on her and has to know exactly where he's going because he knows where the shed is. Apparently he's the only one in town who does. How she would catch up with him in real life, I don't know. She must have super Tilly powers that let you catch up even when people have an unsurmountable lead on you. And of course she's driving through town. People are fighting outside because they already, this guy's already told them bad stuff about each other, and now they're all at each other's throats, so that's why none of the other officers were responding to her requests to find out where the top guy went. And somebody says, oh, I saw him turn down this other road, so of course she goes down this road. He gets to the shed, and there's nobody there. She gets out her rifle or her shotgun, or a shotgun. Yeah, there's shotgun. Big old shotgun. And she comes and places the sheriff under arrest. And he's laughing at her. He's like, what are you doing? She's like, the only reason you would have come out here is to tip off your Russian friends about the fact that they know about him. And so she places him under arrest. That is when above them a whole bunch of spaceships fly over. Like dozens and dozens and dozens. This is the invasion fleet. In fact, this guy in the hat, even said that our invasion, yes, he uses the word invasion. Our invasion depended on finding the shed. So meanwhile, back at the police station, the brother, the sister, before she went on this mission and everything, she gave the brother some food, a plate of food. So the brother realizes, because of his secret Inuit powers of drunkenness, that the guy next to him was an alien all along. And he says, "Hey, buddy, could you use your magic powers to open my door?" And sure enough, he does. And the guy comes out, he looks at him, says, "That's a neat trick." And I guess that's when he realizes, hey, this is an alien. This is the sky people that my ancestors talked about. And he says, "You know what? I bet it's worth giving you guys a chance to run things. Maybe you'll do a better job." Of course, he means do a better job than the current state of the world, aka Western civilization. So he's all okay. He's okay with the aliens coming back. They're his ancestors, I guess, at least in his mind. He goes to the front of the police station. He takes out a big knife, and you think, oh, is he gonna stab that alien dude? Because this would be completely out of character. This would be a big twist. No, he's cutting himself a big old piece of pie, because that's what he said he wanted earlier. And he's just going to sit there eating pie while the aliens take over. The show goes to Jordan Peele, who tells us some bullshit about some Christmas presents. I don't even remember. This officer opened her Christmas present too late. What the F are you talking about, Mr. Peele? There was no present. She didn't get a present. Okay? We got an alien invasion with some diatribe, some BS about how the aliens would be better than Western civilization, aka the patriarchy, aka white people. And back and forth on how evil Christians have been. That's what we've got here. Was it a Twilight Zone episode? In name only. In name only. You might say, oh, this isn't your father's Twilight Zone. You know what? This isn't my Twilight Zone. That's the problem. That is the problem. Not that it's not my father's Twilight Zone. It's not my Twilight Zone. Okay? My Twilight Zone, they don't say F Santa Claus in the first 2 minutes. They're not dropping F-bombs all night. They're not talking about the evils of how Christianity and white people, how bad they are, and how they, whatever the hell they've done to the Inuit people. Yeah, listen, you want to do a show on that, fine. I might even watch it. Don't call it the Twilight Zone. And there's no twist. There's no twist at the end. He was an alien. Jesus. We knew he wasn't human from the very beginning. I thought he might have been Lucifer. But no, that would have been given into modern Christian religion to acknowledge the existence of the devil. So I should have known, no, they would never do that. We're not going to see the devil, because if we see the devil, that implies there's a God. So no, he was an alien. That would have been my second guess. And I should have made it the first guess, because you know what? When the Inuit officer goes into her office, the one thing we get a close-up of is an ancient alien-looking... It looks like a gray alien, but it's in gold. And it's not an alien. I believe it's an Inuit. Because, if you watch as much Ancient Aliens on the History Channel as me, you can pick those things out. That looks like one of the Native American legends of what the sky people look like. It basically looks like a gray alien, and it had a Christmas hat on. Also in this episode, we saw another. We saw the Gremlin doll from Terror at 30,000 Feet, which was based on the Gremlin from the original Twilight Zone, Terror at 20,000 Feet. That doll makes another reoccurrence as a toy under the Christmas tree in this episode. Unfortunately, this was not a Twilight Zone episode. This wasn't a good episode of anything. Even no matter what this episode was called, it would have been a poor episode because none of it makes sense. The story is crap. The editing is poor. I don't understand what the plot was. I don't understand what the mystery was. Oh, aliens. Listen, I'm the first one to love a good alien invasion flick, but this wasn't that. I don't know if the Russians had anything to do with Russian collusion. I don't know what, but the Russians, big surprise, they never actually show up. They're talked about, but there's no Russians in this episode. I can't give this any type of decent score. I don't want to. I mean, even if it wasn't a Twilight Zone, like some of the other earlier episodes, they say, well, if this wasn't a Twilight Zone, maybe I'd give it a 5 or a 6. Okay, if this wasn't a Twilight Zone, it would still get maybe a 2. Okay, I don't know. There's nothing here. That's the problem. Oh, and it's 50-something minutes long. So this is not a 30-minute waste of time. This is a full hour waste of time. Okay, another episode way too long. Way too long. Jordan, my man, if you're listening, if you can't tell the episode in 30 to 35 minutes, don't tell it. It is a bad episode of the Twilight Zone, and it would be even a bad episode of Jordan Peele's Mystery Hour. So that's my first reaction. It's not good. Do I think I'm going to watch this again? Probably not. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. I hope there's been some help. And Qapla. Please remember to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Also on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. And if you're really crazy, you can send me some money on PayPal. Take care.